Hey everyone, I am Percio Castro from Nibble Technologies, and today I'm going to give you a brief overview of our product Otelscope, the first and only OpenTelemetry connector for web methods. In a nutshell, Otelscope brings observability to the web methods platform by enabling customers to export traces, metrics, and logs to their favorite application performance monitoring tool without being tied down to a specific APM vendor. So whether you want to export to Datadog, New Relic, Elastic, Grafana, or really any APM tool supporting OpenTelemetry, we got you covered. Now, before we get into the weeds of what Otelscope is, I'd like to first touch on the problem that Otelscope and OpenTelemetry as a whole attempt to solve. So let's talk about traditional observability for a quick minute. Today, it's not uncommon for a transaction to have to traverse across multiple applications before reaching its final destination. For example, in this slide, we have a scenario where a transaction submitted by a client has to traverse through 4 different applications before reaching the target. The scenario is already complex, but I believe we can all agree that it can get a lot more complicated than this in the real world. For example, if you consider the fact that each of these applications is likely composed of multiple servers, containers, or instances, and in certain circumstances, these instances can dynamically scale up and down, the ability to trace a transaction as it enters the system becomes even more complex. With traditional observability, if you're lucky enough, each system will capture its own logs, metrics, and traces. Realistically, though, some of these systems will likely only be capturing 1 or 2 of these items. On top of that, the information being captured is typically siloed, isolated in the application's own logging and monitoring system, making it inaccessible to other applications or stakeholders. And given the fact that each application is in charge of generating its own logs, there is typically no set standard that is shared across the applications to ensure that the information is being captured in a consistent manner. All these factors combined make tracing transactions across the different applications extremely complex. Tracing a transaction from end to end requires all systems to use a common ID and to have a mechanism to share that ID. OpenTelemetry attempts to solve the problem of transaction tracing while also introducing support for additional telemetry data like metrics and logs. It is a collection of vendor-neutral APIs, development kits, and tools that help you instrument, generate, collect, and export telemetry data to enable you to analyze your software's performance and behavior. It helps technology teams standardize how their applications export telemetry data by providing drop-in instrumentation and tooling for a wide number of platforms. It also enables applications to export that information to a central location via robust architecture based on OpenTelemetry collectors. And given its tooling, standardization, vendor neutrality, and robust architecture, OpenTelemetry is quickly becoming a widely adopted standard by all major observability platforms, with over 40 vendors now officially supporting it. Now, even though OpenTelemetry has drop-in instrumentation and tooling for several major platforms, support for web methods requires expert knowledge of the inner workings of the platform given its proprietary components. For example, things like flow services, adapter services and notifications, messaging triggers, handlers like the HTTP, SOAP, and REST handler, invoke chain processors like statistics, auditing, and validation, and many more things like understanding how the pipeline is structured and used, how statistics are captured, etc., etc. So that's where Otelscope comes in. With our deep knowledge of the web methods platform, we're able to create a product that bridges web methods to the wonderful world of OpenTelemetry. Now, what is Otelscope? In a nutshell, Otelscope is a set of advanced web methods packages that can be installed on the web methods API gateway, integration server, or microservices runtime. Once scoping is turned on, Otelscope instruments key portions of the platform, allowing it to detect, capture, and emit key events such as inbound requests, outbound requests, service invocations, custom business metrics emitted by those services, log events written to the web methods server log or emitted directly via the Otelscope logging services, and even system metrics, which Otelscope emits on a periodic basis, things like CPU, memory, and thread utilization, among other things. Otelscope captures and then emits all of these events to an OpenTelemetry collector, which in turn receives, parses, enriches, and exports the telemetry data to one or more targets. Now, Otelscope has a ton of really cool features, so let's just pick a few to talk about. It has a very lightweight agent built with performance in mind. Installation is as simple as installing any other web methods package, and it does not require a server restart or meddling with internal web methods configuration files. It is highly configurable via JSON configuration file or the web UI. It supports trace context propagation across HTTP, JMS, native messaging, and certain adapters, meaning that as a transaction enters and exits the platform, Otelscope is able to link the entire trace from end to end, giving you full visibility into the performance of that entire integration flow. It has nanosecond precision. Just like its sister tool Nanoscope, Otelscope gives you visibility into things no other web methods tool can, like the performance of server handlers and processors, and the performance of individual flow steps. It has support for auto-generated system metrics as well as custom business metrics, and given the robust OpenTelemetry collector architecture, we can support multiple targets in parallel. In this slide, for example, you can see how custom business metrics can be defined within a service and then emitted to an observability target via Otelscope. In here, we see the same exact trace exported to 3 different targets simultaneously, Jaeger, Tempo, and New Relic, with no extra configuration on the Otelscope side. Like the previous slide suggests, we have tested and continue to test Otelscope against a number of observability platforms, including open source tools like the Grafana stack, which includes Tempo, Loki, and Prometheus, and more traditional traceability tools like Jaeger. But we also test against commercial platforms like Datadog, Lightstep, New Relic, Dynatrace, Elasticstack, AppDynamics, among others. Alright, so that was a quick overview of Otelscope. Please check back as we'll be releasing more and more content around Otelscope, including demos showing how it can integrate with some of the wonderful observability tools we talked about. If you have a particular tool or use case you'd like us to demo, or if you have any other questions or comments, please reach out to us via our website, nibble.tech, or via LinkedIn, or by sending an email to info@nibble.tech. Thank you.